One boy.
One boat.
One tiger.
After the tragic sinking of a cargo ship, a solitary lifeboat remains bobbing on the wild, blue Pacific. The only survivors from the wreck are a 16-year-old boy named Pai, a hyena, a zebra with a broken leg, a female orangutan, and a 450-pound Royal Bengal tiger. This scene is a set for one of the most extraordinary works of fiction in recent years.
Jan Martel, born on June 25, 1963 in Salamanca, Spain, Canadian author best known for Life of Pi in 2001. The story of the eponymous Indian teenager adrift at sea after a shipwreck in a lifeboat shared with a Bengal tiger. In 2001, Martel received international acclaim for Life of Pi, which features elements of fable, fantasy, and magic realism. The book was awarded the prestigious Booker Prize and was published in more than 30 languages. It was later adapted into an Academy Award-winning film in 2012, directed by Ang Lee. Propelled by the success of Life of Pi in 2010, Martel published Beatrice and Virgil, an allegorical adventure meant as a literary representation of the Holocaust, in which animals, a donkey and a monkey, albeit stuffed and on display in a taxidermist shop, converse and interact with human characters. Although the work was met with mixed reviews, Martel effectively utilized animals as vehicles for telling the story, projecting them with human qualities, so the animal is both itself and something else, a kind of canvas. He repeated that approach, this time featuring a chimpanzee, in the high mountains of Portugal 2016. An imaginative foray in the mysteries of existence composed of a trio of interlocking novellas set decades apart, that each served to confirm the importance of religion and to emphasize the author's perspective on the relationship between storytelling and faith. I've
Now for the themes and styles of author Jan Martel. One of his styles is the use of imagery and descriptive language. Jan Martel makes use of descriptive language that helps the readers to picture and visualize the characters and the settings. There are a lot of provided descriptions that even pay attention to the small details, from the physical appearance aspects of a character to how an action was done. It is the imagery where there are adjectives and adverbs that are used for illustrations and representations. One example of this is in chapter 4, page 18. Pi is describing the animals that is seen in the zoo. It says, "On my way out, I might stop by the terraria to look at some shiny frogs glazed bright green or yellow and deep blue, or brown and pale green. Or it might be birds that caught my attention, pink flamingos, or black swans, or one-vaulted cassowaries, or something smaller, silver diamond doves, Cape glossy starlings, peach-faced lovebirds, Nandai conures, orange-fronted parakeets." In addition to that, here are also some textual evidences that where Jan Martel makes use of imagery and descriptive language. Salt water boils red, angry, disfiguring, where a leprosy of the high seas, transmitted by the water that soaked me. Where they burst, my skin was exceptionally sensitive. Accidentally rubbing an open sore was so painful I would gasp and cry out. I saw the whole island was covered with algae, not just its edges. I saw a great green plateau with a green forest in its center. Another style used by Jan Martel is figurative language. He makes use of figurative language such as similes and metaphors, where he mostly incorporates in his use of descriptive language. It serves as a partner for the imagery provided, where the readers can see the pictures deeper and better through the use of similes and metaphors. An example is, I must have looked like a child throwing a peculiar slow motion tantrum in chapter 3, page 11. I had landed upon it from a height. Richard Parker could shred it with his claws with a little time and effort, but he couldn't pop through it like a jack in the box. In chapter 41, page 142. It was a device that looked like an inverted umbrella with a good-sized catchment pouch and a connecting rubber tube. Chapter 52, page 195. Next is foreshadowing. Jan Martel made use of foreshadowing in Life of Pi. In chapter 1, the first line already says, "My suffering left me sad and gloomy," which is a hint that the character himself who was speaking had a tragic experience that will be later uncovered in the novel. Next is foreshadowing. Jan Martel made use of foreshadowing in Life of Pi. In chapter 1, the first line already says, "My suffering left me sad and gloomy," which is a hint that the character himself who was speaking had a tragic experience that will be later uncovered in the novel. At chapter 29, Pi was asking the question on why people move and leave their home. This is the foreshadowing of how Pi and his family will later on move to Canada as they close down their zoo. Why do people move? What makes them uproot and leave everything they've known for a great unknown beyond the horizon? Why climb this Mount Everest of formalities that makes you feel like a beggar? Why enter this jungle of foreignness where everything is new, strange, and difficult? The answer is the same the world over. People move in the hope of a better life. In chapter 29, page 103. At the end of part 1, which is about how Pi and his family is about to move to Canada, he wrote in this perspective of Pi that things did not turn out the way they were supposed to, but still, one shall continue to face what is ahead in life. It reflects how part 2 was how tables turned as the ship where Pi, his family, and the animals are on board sank. Things didn't turn out the way they're supposed to, but what can you do? You must take life the way it comes at you and make the best of it. Chapter 35, page 122. Jan Martel also made use of blend of humorous and serious situations. Life of Pi has shown how Pi has a humorous side when it comes to his personality and thoughts. It also showed the tragic and serious moments of Pi's life, which includes his family migration, his loss of his family, and his survival as he is floating for the months at the ocean. I said to it, "Go tell a ship I'm here. Go!" It turned and sank out of sight, back flippers pushing water in alternate strokes. Chapter 45, page 163. Oh look, speak of the devil. There he is, he's yawning. My, what an enormous pink cave. Look at those long yellow stalactites and stalagmites. Maybe today you'll get a chance to visit. Chapter 61, page 240. My sweet, sweet cow, I exclaimed to the solar still. You've reproduced, and how? What a delicious milk. Mind you, a little rubbery, but I'm not complaining. Why, look at me drink. Chapter 62, page 251. Jan Martel is also known to use animal characters. Among his other novels and Life of Pi itself, Jan Martel mostly incorporates animals as part of his characters. He uses animal characters to represent symbolism and convey themes. In Beatrice and Virgil, the characters are a donkey as Beatrice and a monkey as Virgil. In We Ate the Children Last, Jan Martel involved pigs in the novel. Jan Martel's recurring themes are loss of death In his other novels, Jan Martel conveys the message or themes about loss or death which can be seen in his publication of The Facts Behind the Helsinki Rockamatios and Other Stories 1993 and his first novel Self in 1996, which both shows death and dying and the burden of grief and loss. Morality. Jan Martel has written novels that question various things on what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. From the life of Pi that engages readers to think deeply about what is the right religion, what is wrong with believing and having different religions, then how society is quick to accept new technological advances and innovations without being sufficiently informed about the possible consequences, which can be seen in the novel We Ate the Children Last.
Even before his novel Life of Pi, Jan Martel already received numerous awards such as Governor General's Literary Award for Fiction, Hugh MacLennan Prize for Fiction, Chapters Books in Canada First Novel Award, Journey Prize, and of course, his winning novel Life of Pi in Man Booker Prize for Fiction. In 2002 also, Jan Martel received Commonwealth Writers' Prize and Asian Pacific American Award for Literature. And in 2003, he received Book Prize, La Presse Prix du Grand Public, and in 2004, Dutcher Batch Prize, and in 2014, the Coventry Inspiration Book Award. And his other famous writings are Self, We Ate the Children Last, Beatrice and Virgil, Letters to a Prime Minister, and the High Mountains of Portugal. The first setting is in the Pondicherry, India. This is where the childhood of Pi takes place. This is also where his father's zoo located. But because of the difficult situation there, they chose to sell the zoo and move to the Canada through the cargo ship, the Chim Cham, along with some of their animals. However, the ship wrecked because of the catastrophic event at the sea. Next is the Pacific Ocean. Pi is on a lifeboat with a few zoo animals that were survived. This became the central setting for the whole survival journey of Pi. Then they found the carnivorous island. Pi first thought that it was a paradise with food and waters. However, Pi discovered that it is a deadly island that can kill them silently at night. Mexico. This is where Pi was rescued off the coast of Mexico in the Pacific Ocean. Pi was taken to the hospital, but Richard Parker wasn't mentioned again. It is believed that he left when Pi was about to be rescued. Japanese investigators asked him about his survival journey afterwards. Characters. The first one is Paisin Molitor Patel, or Pi. He is the protagonist of the story that narrated most of the story. His name originated from the French word for pool. He is interested in the animals and people's characteristics and behaviors, as well as studying religion and zoology. Next is the famous Royal Bengal Tiger, or also known as Richard Parker. Along with Pi in the survival journey in the lifeboat, he kills the hyena and the blind cannibal to save Pi. He weighs 450 pounds and about 9 feet long. He is trained by Pi and is submissive to Pi. Aside from the first-person points of view, here comes another narrator, the author. He narrates the author's note that comes into various parts of the text. Some clues were evident, pointing that this is Jan Martel himself. Francis Adirubasami is one of the characters that was introduced the first part of the story. He is the one who taught Pi how to swim when he was a child and the one who gave his unique name. He first told the story of Pi to the author and arranged the meeting between Pi and the author since the author believed that the story of Pi will make him believe in God. He was often called Mamaji, which means respectable uncle in India. Now we are going to proceed to the family of Pi. The first one is Ravi. He is the older brother of Pi. He is 3 years older than Pi, who always preferred sports rather than studying. He always teases Pi about his multiple religion. Next is Mr. Santosh Patel, the father of Pi, who owns the Pondicherry Zoo. He taught his sons how to care for and handle wild animals. He was raised as Hindu but not religious. The hard situation in India made him decide to move to Canada. And of course, the affectionate and protective mother of Pi, Geeta Patel. She doesn't conform to any religion, which became one of the factors why Pi subscribed to multiple religions. She also gave importance to reading and is vocal about the parenting technique of his husband. Next is Mr. Satish Kumar, the biology teacher of Pi at the secondary school Petit Seminaire in Pondicherry, India. He inspired Pi to zoology with his power of inquiry and explanation. And the next 3 characters are the people who serve as his guide to various religions, because when he was a kid, his father brings him to places of worship to learn about various religions. The first one is the Hindu Pandit, Hindu religious authority figure who educates and instructs young Pi about Hinduism. Next is Father Martin. Father Martin represents the Christian religion and gives young Pi direction and understanding of Christianity. The last one is Mr. Satish Kumar, the Muslim mentor of Pi, and has a strong influence on the academic plan of Pi that made Pi continue studying religion in his college. He also has the same name as the biology teacher of Pi. And the next 4 characters are the 4 main animals that are in the lifeboat with Pi when the ship wrecked. The first one is the hyena. The hyena is an aggressive predator that controls the lifeboat before Richard Parker came. The hyena killed and eaten by Richard Parker when the hyena attacks Pi. It represents human nature's cruel and survival-driven characteristic. Next is orangutan, also known as orange juice. Orange juice reflects motherly love and a caring figure. When the hyena attacks them, she tried to protect Pi and the other animals, but orange juice is defeated and was killed by the hyena. Her characteristics are opposite to the hyena and tiger's aggressive and predatory traits. The third one is the zebra. The zebra represents vulnerability because of helplessness and innocent traits. Just like the orangutan, the zebra is also an opposite characteristic of tiger and hyena. This shows the two sides' harsh reality of life in the wild. The zebra made Pi realize the harsh reality that made him question the ethics of survival and the value of life. This caused Pi's character development. And the fourth is the Bengal tiger, or also known as Richard Parker. Although Richard Parker was already discussed a while ago, in this part, we will emphasize how Richard Parker reflects the instinctual side of humans, which includes protecting themselves and hunger. He developed a bond with Pi with their survival and companionship.
Point of view. For the point of view, it used first-person point of view. In most chapters, the novel can be read from the perspective of Pi. It can be seen here, I was named after a swimming pool, quite peculiar considering my parents never took to water. Chapter 3, page 9. Another point of view used is Jan Martel or the author himself. Some chapters are inputs of the author, Jan Martel, where he is describing how he met Pi. He lives in Scarborough. He's a small, slim man, no more than 5 foot 5, dark hair, dark eyes, hair graying at the temples, can't be older than 40, pleasing coffee-colored complexion, mild fall weather, yet puts on a big winter parka with fur-lined hood for the walk to the diner. Expressive face, speaks quickly, hands flitting about, no small talk, he launches forth. Chapter 2, page 9. Summary. For the plot, the story started with how Pi introduces himself, where he tells us a story about his name and how he experienced various teasing with his name, such as pissing. Pi's tale frequently digresses to explain about zookeeping, animal territories, and boundaries. As a youth, Pi becomes devoutly Hindu and then converts to Christianity and Islam. He practices all three religions at once, despite the protests of his parents and the religious leaders. The emergency brings political turmoil to India, and Pi's parents decide to sell the zoo and move the family to Canada. They board a Japanese cargo ship called the Chim Chum, traveling with many of the zoo animals. The ship sinks, leaving no human survivors except for Pi. Pi sees a tiger, Richard Parker, and encourages him to climb aboard. Pi eventually finds himself on the lifeboat with a zebra, a hyena, and Orange Juice, the orangutan. The hyena kills the zebra and eats it. The hyena then fights and kills Orange Juice. Pi notices that Richard Parker is still in the boat, hiding under a tarpaulin. Richard Parker kills the hyena, leaving Pi alone with the tiger. Pi started to learn how to fish and strategize how to survive with the tiger. Pi and Richard Parker each occupy their own territory in the lifeboat and live peacefully, though they are constantly starving. Later, the boat comes to a mysterious island made entirely of algae and inhabited by thousands of meerkats. Pi and Richard Parker stay there for a while and recover their health. One day, Pi finds a tree with a human teeth as its fruit, and he realizes that the island is carnivorous. Pi decides to leave with Richard Parker.
There are three natures of conflict in the novel The Life of Pi. First, man versus self. Throughout the novel, Pi is at a constant struggle with himself. He must decide what is more important to him, surviving or staying true to himself. To face this inner conflict with himself, he created a scapegoat to do what he cannot make himself do. That is Richard Parker. When he is forced to kill the chef in order to survive, he forces himself to think that it is Richard Parker that does it and not him. Even though Pi is becoming physically weak, he refuses to become mentally weak, as that would cause him to lose faith in God. This is because if he mentally stops believing he will survive, he is subconsciously thinking God is not there. Second, man versus society. Pi is forced to fight society at a very young age when he begins to practice multiple religions. He must practice at times when others won't see him because he is often harassed or kicked out of temples when the priests see him. He must face all this discrimination simply because he believes in more than one religion, and that is not acceptable in the society in which he lives. Lastly, man versus nature. When Pi leaves for Canada with his family and the Chim Chum sinks, Pi is left stranded at sea in the lifeboat. He must then face the harsh conditions at sea and fight against the elements in order to survive. He faces hunger, dehydration from the sun, all while he is surrounded by an ocean full of fish. Ultimately, nature takes everything from Pi, including his family, and his family's fortune. The resolution of the novel takes place when Pai has been rescued and brought to a hospital where he has been interviewed by two Japanese officials, Mr. Tomohiro Okamoto and his junior colleague, Mr. Atsuro Chiba, both in the Maritime Department in the Japanese Ministry of Transport.
Here are the contemporary themes seen in Life of Pi. To animals, humans can be the most dangerous animals. In the first part of the book, Pi gives us an insight on how animals can be dangerous. However, for the animals, humans can be the most dangerous animals. Pi conveys this message through sharing different incidents that happened in the zoo. In this text, it shows how the zoo visitors feed the animals with various dangerous things that are not even edible and consumable for animals and even for humans themselves. Such of these are ballpoint pens, paper clips, safety pins, rubber bands, combs, coffee spoons, horseshoes, pieces of broken glass, rings, brooches, and other jewelry. And not just cheap plastic bangles, gold wedding bands too. Drinking straws, plastic cutlery, ping pong balls, tennis balls, and so on in Chapter 8, page 38. As a continuation, Pi tells a famous story about Goliath, who is known for his death when a zoo visitor fed him a broken beer bottle. Among zookeepers, Goliath's death is famous. He was a bull elephant seal, a great big venerable beast of 2 tons, star of his European zoo. Loved by all his visitors, he died of internal bleeding after someone fed him a broken beer bottle in Chapter 8, page 38. In Chapter 8, this is where the theme was mainly highlighted, where it clearly shows how well known it is for Pi and his father as zookeeper that humans are the dangerous animal in the zoo. The father even set up a wall that has a painted question, "Do you know which is the most dangerous animal in the zoo?" In the wall, which points at a small curtain, behind the curtain is a mirror. Thus, if you interact, the human who opens the curtain will see itself and its reflection, answering the question. Just beyond the ticket booth, Father had painted on a wall in bright red letters the question, "Do you know which is the most dangerous animal in the zoo?" An arrow pointed to a small curtain. There were so many eager, curious hands that pulled at the curtain that we had to replace it regularly. Behind it was a mirror. Chapter 8, page 41. During the interrogation with Pi and 2 Japanese officials, Pi also made clear how animals fear humans. Wild animals fight humans because they feel threatened, and that is their sheer desperation of the animals for their own survival. What you don't realize is that we are a strange and forbidding species to wild animals. We feel them with fear. They avoid us as much as possible. It took centuries to still the fear in some pliable animals, domestication it's called, but most cannot get over their fear, and I doubt they ever will. When wild animals fight us, it is out of sheer desperation. They fight when they feel they have no other way. It's a very last resort. Animals with their looks and feelings may be or may not be dangerous. In the novel, it is highlighted that animals, even with their very adorable appearances, have what it takes to attack and even kill you. This is made clear by the father of Pi as they went around the zoo to take a look at the animals and the danger or viciousness that lies inside them. The hippos, with those soft flabby mouths of theirs, they'll crush your body to a bloody pulp. On land they can outrun you. Yes, father. Chapter 8, page 48. The ostrich looks flustered and silly, doesn't it? Listen up. It is one of the most dangerous animals in a zoo. Just one kick and your back is broken or your torso is crushed. Yes, father. The spotted deer. So pretty, aren't they? If the male feels he has to, he'll charge you, and those short little antlers will pierce you like daggers. Chapter 8, page 49. However, animals do not always pose danger. A great factor seen in the novel and made point by Pai is that when animals do not feel danger or threat from someone, they would not pose danger to you. Richard Parker, denoted as a very dangerous animal by his Pai's father, did not even kill Pai when they were both stuck in the sea. It also shows how animals are just defending themselves when they feel threatened or when their territories are being disturbed or invaded. Rarely will a tiger attack a fellow predator without warning. Typically, a head-on rush for the adversary will be made, with much snarling and growling. But just before it is too late, the tiger will freeze the menace rumbling deep in its throat. It will appraise the situation. If it decides that there is no threat, it will turn away. Feeling that its point has been made, Richard Parker made his point with me 4 times. Chapter 72, page 278. Another theme shown in the novel is one's faith and belief is best when it is truly felt rather than being judged. Pai showed that there is nothing wrong with believing in different religions. It is just those who rely a lot on their moral perceptions and their pride on their own religion which makes it seem wrong. Pai showed how he really has a strong faith in all the religions that he chose to believe in. His faith was made stronger during his journey at the sea. Whenever there are simple good things that happen to him, he always makes sure to express his thanks to his faith and express his adorations for the different gods in the different religions. Pai was also described by Jan Martel in his point of view chapter as a person who is an intellect confounded yet a trusting sense of presence and of ultimate purpose. Pai expressed that all religions are true and Pai just wants to love God the way he tried to get to know God in different perspectives of the different religions. Pai believes that religion should be felt more inside and not just all about expressing faith visible to the eyes. Bapu Gandhi said, "All religions are true. I just want to love God." I blurted out and looked down, red in the face. Chapter 23, page 92. These people fail to realize that it is on the inside that God must be defended, not on the outside. Chapter 25, page 94 to 95. "Thank you, Lord Vishnu, thank you," I shouted. "Once you saved the world by taking the form of a fish, now you have saved me by taking the form of a fish. Thank you, thank you." Chapter 61, page 247. Pai's faith was challenged during his difficult times, but nevertheless, his love for God still makes its way at the end of the day. But it was hard. It was hard. Faith in God is an opening up, a letting go, a deep trust, a free act of love. But sometimes it was so hard to love. Sometimes my heart was sinking so fast with anger, desolation, and weariness. I was afraid it would sink to the very bottom of the Pacific and I would not be able to lift it back up. Chapter 74, page 280. But God's hat has always unraveling. The blackness would steer and eventually go away, and God would remain, a shining point of light in my heart. I would go on loving. Page 281, chapter 74. Lastly, it also shows one is willing to do anything to survive. With the current situation of Pai, he is willing to do anything to survive, from fishing to eating raw food to strategizing what to do in his current situation to taming a tiger and to even attempt eating animal feces. Pai strategizes plan on what he can do about Richard Parker, which he sees as a threat for him to survive. Therefore, here are his plans that he strategized. Plan number 1, push him off the lifeboat. Plan number 2, kill him with the 6 morphine syringes. Plan number 3, attack him with all available weaponry. Plan number 4, choke him. Plan number 5, poison him, set him on fire, electrocute him. Plan number 6, wage a war of attrition. And lastly, plan number 7, keep him alive, which he later on decided to go to. Chapter 57 to 102, page 221. Pi tells us where he once tried to eat the feces of Richard Parker because of his hunger. I popped the bowl into my mouth. I couldn't eat it. The face was acrid, but it wasn't that. It was rather my mouth's conclusion, immediate and obvious. There's nothing to be had there. In correlation with the mentioned theme beforehand, Pi's fate also became a part of Pi's willingness to survive. I was giving up. I would have given up if a voice hadn't made itself heard in my heart. The voice said, I will not die. I refuse it. I will make it through this nightmare. I will beat the odds, as great as they are. I have survived so far miraculously. Now I will turn miracle into routine. The amazing will be seen every day. I will put in all the hard work necessary. Yes, so long as God is with me, I will not die. Amen. Chapter 53, page 197. Lastly, we have the art of storytelling, which is true or versus act of storytelling, true versus compelling. People have their own preferences and judgments about which of which is better, the stories which seem to be true or the stories that are compelling. Just like in the interrogation of Pi with the 2 Japanese officials, the officials refused to believe the story told by Pi. However, when Pi decided to retell the story using humans as characters, it sounded more compelling to the officials. So tell me, since it makes no factual difference to you and you can prove the question either way, which story do you prefer? Which is the better story? The story with animals or the story without animals? Mr. Okamoto and Mr. Chiba says, that's an interesting question, the story with animals. Okamoto, yes, the story with animals is the better story. Pai Patel says, thank you, and so it is, and so it goes with God. Chapter 99, page 424.
Jan Martel structured his art to convey a larger meaning and entice his audience. Postmodernism literature helps blur the line between reality and art and actively engages the reader in the story. Firstly, there is a breaking of genre rules. Before actually having read the book, the reader might consider Life of Pi to be a good example of documentary in a novel format. Thus, the story reflects reality, even though this reality is somewhat extreme. Reading along, the reader realizes it might be more of an adventurous book, since it has a built-up thrill. This only for the reader to face an ending which completely changes everything that has just been read. All happenings might not have been reality at all, which more resembles to the fantasy genre. Clearly, this breaking of genre is just like words at all, subjective. Some people might interpret the book as fantasy or magic realism from the very beginning. Secondly, when Pi was interviewed, the 2 Japanese officials said that Pi's story is impossible and too unbelievable for them to write about. They asked Pi for a more believable story, then Pi replied, I know what you want. You want a story that won't surprise you, that will confirm what you already know, that won't make you see higher or further or differently. You want a flat story, an immobile story. You want dry, yeast-less factuality. Pi tells them a second story which is more violent and realistic, exposing the darker side of a man and what survival drove him to do. Pi compares the animals from his first story to the people in the second who were actually on the boat.
The imaginative and fantastical narrative of the story made it under the genre of fantasy. The following are the characteristics of a fantasy that are evident in the life of Pi. The first one is anthropomorphism. The novel didn't state that the animals spoke, but their interactions with each other, as well as with Pi, show human-like qualities that only happen in fantasy. Next, some of the scenarios are beyond the realm of reality. An example of this is the scenario of Pi in the middle of the lifeboat with different animals and eventually finding a deeper connection of companionship and surviving 227 days with a Bengal tiger on a lifeboat. Third is a carnivorous island. The island appears to be a lush green paradise teeming with food and clean water, but Pi found out that it is a carnivorous that feeds organisms who live there. At night, the plants on the island create acid, which dissolves any organisms or living materials on the island's surface. And this only happens in a fantasy.